Good morning, everybody. Let's start our program here this morning. I'm Karen Tucker, CEO of the Churchill Club. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming out and joining us this morning. Our program is about marketing, big data, and customer analytics and insights. We have an exciting discussion in store with John Boris, SVP and CMO Shutterfly, and Lewnes, SVP and CMO Adobe, and Heidi Melin, CMO of Plex Systems, led in conversation by Fatemeh Khatibloo, who is Senior Customer Intelligence Analyst at Forrester Research. Thank you all so much for being here. And I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Shutterfly for their support in making this program possible, and also Edelman PR, our longtime supporter and partner. We definitely couldn't have done this without you. Thank you both very, very much. Please join me in thanking our supporters. A brief introduction for our new guests in the audience. Churchill Club is Silicon Valley's premier independent business and technology forum since 1985. What drives us every day is to encourage innovation, economic growth, and societal benefit. And we do this through the up to 40 programs that we present each year, where like minds can connect with ideas and with one another. We are a 501c3, not-for-profit, member-supported organization, and if you have an interest in joining us, we would welcome you to do so. We have a very packed month of June with programs, beginning next with the 2013 VC Roundtable on June 6, Digital Disruption with the leaders of Airbnb, Expensify, Pebble, and Uber on June 12, and Revolutions in the Making, which is a close look at the economically disruptive technologies that McKinsey believes are most important for us to pay attention to. And then a program on June 26 about what makes standout company performers different. And these are just some of the events coming up, so please keep an eye on us through the website or get on the mailing list so that you know what we're doing. If you're tweeting this morning, please use the hashtag Churchill Club, and you will find other Twitter codes in your printed programs. Our moderator is, again, Fatemeh Khatibloo of Forrester Research. Fatemeh spends much of her professional time studying how knowing one's customers can improve marketing and business performance. She also covers trends and implications around areas such as privacy and identity, data portability, and the emerging consumer data economy. Let's give our warmest Churchill Club welcome to Fatemeh Khatibloo.
Good morning, and thank you so much. Can everybody hear me all right? Volume all right? Good. So thank you all so much for joining this morning. As Karen said, we are pretty heavily focused on this idea of consumer data and big data and all of the buzzwords inherent in that. And I think what I'm most excited about on the panel today and the discussion this morning is that we have an incredibly broad cross-section of CMOs present. Folks who do B2B and B2C, sell services, sell product, and I think it's a pretty fascinating look, and I hope that you will enjoy this, a pretty fascinating look at what customer insights and intelligence means to each of them, the trends that they see changing and happening in their businesses and their clients' businesses, and some of the pitfalls that we all expect to face in the upcoming decade around consumer data and personal data and business and marketing strategy. So with that, I will quickly turn things over to each of you to introduce yourselves and your businesses. John?
Okay. Hi, I'm John Boris. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for Shutterfly. Shutterfly is the leading manufacturer and digital retailer of personalized and photo-based products and services. We're also a family of brands: Shutterfly, Tiny Prints, Wedding Paper Divas, Treat, My Publisher, This Life. So hopefully you've heard of one or several of those brands, otherwise I need to do a little bit better at my job. Prior to Shutterfly, I've had the distinct pleasure to work for great consumer brands such as Lonely Planet, the travel guide company, Zagat Survey, Fresh Direct, 1-800-Flowers, Radio City Music Hall, Madison Square Garden. I'm a Knicks fan, so that's helpful. And data was a part of the mix of all of those brands. And certainly we're going to talk about that today. But I guess kind of also you asked for kind of one view on big data, and as an opening statement, data is incredibly powerful. It's an incredibly powerful tool that helps marketers and businesses get smarter about how we market, how we communicate, what we say, when we say it, the products we promote, the products we create. But big data in itself is not a strategy. It's a tool that enables marketers and businesses to be smarter and more effective. So while I love it, big data is not an end. It's a means to an end, not an end unto itself.
Great. Ann?
Okay, I'm Ann Lewnes. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Adobe. I've been at Adobe 7 years. Hopefully you're familiar with Adobe. We started out as a creative software business, products like Photoshop, Illustrator, Flash, Acrobat, so we're the PDF people. Recently we moved those products all into a cloud-based service called Creative Cloud. And several years ago, we acquired our first, what I would call kind of digital marketing or marketing optimization company, Omniture. And subsequently, we've acquired or built quite a lot of technology. We have 5, I would say, pretty complete solutions in that category. So we're really doing B2C, which is heavily the consumer business, as well as B2B, which is this digital marketing business. And the goal is to build those things together. Before that, I was at Intel for 20 years. I think I'm rare in the Valley. I've only ever worked 2 places. There I focused a lot on B2C, quite frankly, because we were really trying to build a pull strategy and ingredient branding strategy to get people to prefer Intel microprocessors. A crazy idea in the beginning, but it ended up working out pretty well. So in terms of big data, we are actually a company that works with big data specifically for marketers. I agree with what John said. I think the key thing, because big data can be incredibly overwhelming, is to know exactly what you're looking for before you start collecting, and then to make sure that the things that you are collecting are actually actionable. And again, if you set your goals very early on, you should be selecting things that are indeed actionable so that you aren't just collecting data for data's sake.
I have to say, just with a quick interruption, I'm on a mission and quest to change the big data hashtag to the right data hashtag.
There you go.
I like that. I like that. That's good. I am Heidi Melin. I am the CMO of Plex Systems, formerly the CMO of Eloqua. I actually haven't officially started yet at Plex, but we'll be starting in the next couple of weeks. Thrilled to be joining Plex. Plex is a cloud-based ERP software company built specifically for the manufacturing industry. And so it's a little bit of a secret right now, but I hope that going forward that you will hear more and more about Plex. I'm excited to leverage my background in software as a service and in cloud computing from Eloqua, as well as Taleo, and my ERP background from PeopleSoft and Hyperion. And for those of you that are doing the math, it is true, I have been acquired not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times by Oracle, twice in 1 year. And so I have a lot of experience with acquisitions, integrations, as well as with big data as a concept. Being in a SaaS business, creating data is really what we do, and the ability for marketers to leverage that data, whether it's to help support our customers with best practices, for example, or whether it's to provide insight to our own marketing programs, I think is the big opportunity. In B2B, the buying cycles are shifting very significantly, and our responsibility as marketers is to leverage the data that we have to most accurately target and provide content for our prospects and our customers. And big data is the way to do that. And I agree, it is a tool. It is not a strategy. It is simply a way to get to a strategy. So I look forward to the discussion.
So Heidi, you used a word there that is clearly near and dear to my heart, and that's insights.
Yep.
And so just to kind of baseline a little bit, I sit within the customer intelligence, now customer insights team at Forrester, and our sort of nutshell description for what we do and the people that we serve is the collection, the management, the application, and the analysis and the application of data to marketing strategy and business strategy. So let me ask you, when you think about customer insights, what does that mean in your organization, and how is it changing? Do you see that you're kind of investing differently in customer insights? Talk to us a little bit about that, if you would.
What I would say is the buying cycles, certainly in B2B, especially selling into a large enterprise, has shifted so much, and the requirement for us as marketers to have those insights about our customers and about our prospective customers is more important today than it ever has been before, because many of our prospective customers are not touched by a salesperson until well into the sales cycle. Very different than 5 or 10 years ago, when really the salesperson owned that relationship and understood at a deep level those customer insights. We as marketers have the opportunity to provide that information not only to our marketing programs to inform them, but almost more importantly to our sales teams so they can leverage that insight because of that shift in the buying cycle. Those customers know a lot more about our products, they know a lot more about what we're doing before a salesperson even gets in touch with them. And so our job as marketers is to leverage that insight. And the tools that we have today are very different and much more powerful if used correctly.
Yeah, yeah. Now, and you have an interesting perspective on this, because your organization is about B2B and B2C. So you're not just looking at how can you serve your B2C, sort of your end users, but how do you help marketers also serve their end users, right? So can you talk a little bit about what you see from a best practice perspective and how people are, again, investing in customer insights and using CI differently?
Yeah, so when I first got to Adobe, we had a very traditional kind of market research function. And we were doing qualitative and quantitative analysis. And I completely lucked out. It ended up the guy who ran that was an econometrician. And so, which is kind of rare. So he had, I would say, the foresight early on to be able to understand the importance of things like simulation and modeling in terms of data, had deep knowledge about kind of data. And I think the whole thing has completely changed. Mm-hmm. You know, we use some traditional research, but really now and this organization was formed around this guy. The name of the organization is Marketing Insights and Operations. It's completely dedicated to data analysis, web analytics, campaign effectiveness. All of that is housed in one organization. And in terms of how we're actually using data, we do have a kind of B2C stream, and that's heavily kind of web marketing based. So almost 75% of the money we spend is on the web in terms of our budget. We're pretty good at that, and I would say that's a bit easier, quite frankly, than B2B, which requires kind of high touch once you're kind of far in the funnel. And I'm no expert on B2B. My area is really B2C, but one of the things that we're looking at now is how do we kind of bring those two functions together, because they're pretty separate right now. The B2B thread is, a traditional lead gen all the way through, either inside sales or through the enterprise sales force. And the B2C is really direct to the consumer, and you're using traditional, I would say, methods, whether it's social or display or search to get your clients. We're doing that on the B2B side too, but I'd like to see that come together a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great. You're the token B2C marketer.
True.
Can you talk a little? So, you guys started your digital business, right? Mm-hmm. What has changed for you in terms of CI and how you use customer data and customer knowledge?
Sure, a lot. It changed, and it seems to change more every year. So we internally call our team, we have an acronym, CIA, Customer Insight and Analytics, and it's not because it's a clandestine organization, but it's it is very data focused, as you can imagine. So that team is a team that it is basically a service organization within our broader organization. So it's marketing can tap into it, the business itself, so the general management organization, customer service. And the reason it functions like that is because there are various parts of the business that want to get smarter about their business, get smarter about the customer. So it's critical that it is a service level organization. In terms of the way that we use customer insights and analytics, it's pervasive. We have 18 billion photos of our customers' memories stored in our cloud. Each one of those photos are typically tied to a life event. So this enables us to harness the power of the image coupled with the life event, coupled with customer behavior. And now that we're a family of brands, and a growing family of brands, it adds another level of complexity as you start to factor in life cycles, as you start to factor in the LTV and CLV of a customer that comes in through one brand and goes to a sister brand. And so it's becoming increasingly important for us to get smarter about the way that we market not only one singular brand, but our family of brands to our customers.
Yeah, that's an awesome tee up, actually, and we didn't plan this. But you know, the topic of this session is the 360-degree view. And you know, you touched on it a little bit, this idea that you now have a sisterhood of brands and life cycles that you can start to frame up. Is 360-degree view a fallacy? Is it something we can ever really get to?
I think everyone defines the 360-degree view differently because it's endemic to every specific business. My holistic view is, 360-degree enables you to look at the past, look at the present, and hopefully predict the future. But it has to be done in a responsible way. So I don't think it's a fallacy to say that you can strive to get a 360-degree view, but it's a little bit like chasing the horizon. I don't think you ever quite get there. Okay. I don't know if you guys...
maybe we're at like a 270-degree view right now. So we have something at Adobe called the single source of truth. And we had a bunch of people all over the company collecting data, and everybody had their own view of what that data meant, and there was no real alignment, whether it was customer attitudes toward particular products, how many people were coming to particular places on the website, et cetera. And so we formed kind of a cross-functional group that meets sometimes daily, mostly weekly, to understand and align around the numbers. And this group is called the single source of truth. That has helped, I cannot tell you, because there were reports and there was monitoring being done by various different groups. Pulling that group together, and this includes sales, customer support, global marketing, my organization, product marketing, all of the people who are involved in any form of data collection now are unified. And that provides as close as I think we can come to having a single view. The one piece that we're really working on right now, and I'm no technical expert, is integrating all the various data sources. This is a big problem for us. So our CRM system and what we call marketing data are not kind of well integrated yet. And there are other systems as well and data sources that we are in the process of pulling together, because a lot of it is still manual and obviously is not as actionable in real time as we'd like it to be. So that's something that we're working on right now.
So you touched on what I think is the bane of many folks' existence, and that is this sort of data integration problem, right? I have this theory that we will actually, this 360-degree view is kind of attainable if we actually start sharing data between businesses. And the example that I like to give is I was actually in a car accident not too long ago, and I was sitting in the ER that night, and I was thinking the car had OnStar, and I was sitting in the ER and I was thinking, my God, why isn't there somebody doing analytics to turn all of that telematics data into something that my ER doctor can understand and ingest and know, what the likelihood is that I'm going to have certain problems or whatever. If that comes to pass, we've got a whole other layer of integration issues, right? Is it feasible to think that we might get to this place where organizations start sharing data, and what might that look like, Heidi?
I think it is, but I think it's twofold. I think it is certainly business process. There's an integration in business process that has to happen before systems integration. And what tends to happen is people want to integrate the data and the systems first without having the underlying business process. So if there was a business process that was set up between the ER and OnStar, and then it was integrated into the underlying systems, that's the way to attack it. But what happens so many times is we think that the technology is going to solve the business problem for us. And I've worked for technology companies for a long time, and they can help, but the business process has to be defined. And that, to me, is the link in us being able to leverage the immense amount of data that's available that's not tied together today.
Yeah.
And the same thing holds true within a business. If you look at tying your CRM system together with your marketing automation system, that is going to happen. The acquisition that was announced this morning,
right.
you know, Salesforce.com is acquiring ExactTarget. Oracle has acquired Eloqua. There is absolutely an integration that is happening in the industry between the CRM systems and the marketing automation systems, because response to revenue is one business process, not two. And that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But defining the underlying business processes is a critical component that technology can't solve the whole problem.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think part of the solution is for IT and marketing to kind of come closer together. And I know there's this big trend, CIOs and CMOs love each other, but
No, we're going to spend more than they are. Wasn't that it? By 2015, I think.
A couple of years ago, my CIO, and I really do like my CIO, she felt complete ownership over the customer database. What people buy from this company is my responsibility. And I would say my group felt what people do on the website is my responsibility. And I think, you know, what it's taken is both of us saying, nobody owns data. This is a customer asset, and we all need to integrate it and share it if we're going to make the most of it. And that was a big deal when we finally came to that conclusion.
I think one of the interesting questions, and I'm going to tee up actually for next month's breakfast, the Digital Disruption Breakfast that I hope you guys will come to with my colleague James McQuivey. Can we afford to wait? The business process layer, can we afford to, won't we be disrupted by startups and things like that if we don't sort of find a way to be more nimble? John?
I think the reality is integration is challenging. Integration within an organization, as Ann mentioned and Heidi mentioned, is challenging. And while there are bridges to help make that a little bit easier, they're not quite where they should be yet across the board, or in many instances, I shouldn't say across the board. So I think it is, we need to get more nimble as an industry of harnessing data, building bridges to systems as it relates to working with you know, everyone kind of holding hands and sharing big data. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon for a whole host of reasons. One is competitive self-interest. I think people get nervous about sharing data. Two is I also think there's a covenant you have with your consumer of what you share and how you share it. That in your OnStar example, by the way, well done for Grace under pressure, sitting there in an ER room figuring out how to harness the power of big data. There are several outlying instances where that does make sense and that does better the customer, but there are many instances where it doesn't. And that just means you're going to be followed around more by display retargeting, and you know there's no benefit to the customer; it's benefit to the company. So I somewhat answered your question, then kind of threw my own view on that on top of that. But I think nimbleness is the tools and the bridges and the systems need to get better for companies to be a little bit more nimble.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, and I know one of your questions was about kind of how consumers feel about data collection. We just did a survey actually not too long ago in 7 countries and 1,000 consumers and 1,000 marketers to get their views on marketing in general, but specifically on digital marketing, and data was a big part of that study. And I was looking at the results last night, and people, for the most part, consumers do think it's kind of creepy and they don't like people collecting data. However, certain data collection does not upset them. So the things that are most concerning to consumers are indeed kind of confidential things, having to surrender their social security number. Knowing that their data might be passed on to a third party, so somebody collects it and then they pass it over. But website personalization and being able to tell you what you've purchased in the past, those were highly desirable, or at least neutral. So I think the type of data you collect, the transparency that you afford your consumers, the ability to check exactly what is being collected, and always the opportunity to opt out, I think are really important so people don't feel exploited. But in general, our belief is that people want to receive relevant information. It's valuable to them, and I think the example of website personalization is a good one.
I think that's a great point. And I do want to come back to that, but I'm curious too, from the B2B perspective, we don't think too often about the notion of privacy, and one of my colleagues talks about the cool to creepy line, that continuum. Where do you see the sort of B2B privacy thing going? I mean, is it something we need to worry about?
So it's really important for companies. I'll use Taleo as an example. Taleo had the most amazing data on how companies not only recruit, but hire and manage the performance of their employees. So that's pretty sensitive data. The privacy issues around that data is very, very critical about individual employees. But when you aggregate that data and you look at it across industries and across regions, it becomes really valuable information. One of the things that we did at Taleo in trying to leverage the big data that we had was to actually start to produce reports on hiring trends. And what we found was 15% of the US hires were all going through the Taleo system. So our numbers were actually better than the federal government's numbers from a jobs perspective. That's pretty powerful information, and at an aggregate level, you don't have those privacy issues. The same thing holds true for a marketing automation company that has data that is about how companies can be successful. Should an email go out on a Monday or a Wednesday, what works better across this industry or across this region? That's information that's really valuable to customers, and being able to harness that content and delivering it to customers and prospective customers at the right time is really important. But you do have to be careful of where does that privacy layer fall and where does the creepiness factor. I'll use a personal example. Who here is a fan of One Kings Lane? Okay, is there anyone here from One Kings Lane? Before I say this out loud.
Well, they're not going to tell you now.
I love One Kings Lane. In fact, so it's sort of an issue at my house. But it is unbelievable because I'll look at something on One Kings Lane and I won't buy it. And then I'll be on Facebook and they are literally retargeting me with that same item. Brilliant, because then I buy it. I'm like, oh yeah, that beautiful vase that I didn't need. And now, of course, I need it. That borders on creepy to me. Borders on creepy.
Especially when it's something you don't really want people to know that you want.
Right, exactly, because then everyone in my network knows that I just bought this vase, including my husband, which is a problem. So, so anyhow, I think there is a border of creepiness. I think that we're going to get used to it, though. I think the creepiness factor is going to go away over time.
I think too, I think you're right, and I think also we're going to find different ways to deal with it. So I think we're going to inject a consumer layer into the way that we do business. I think that, we talk a lot about the paradigm of the car buying model, right? And so you're buying a car once. When I buy the car, can I just turn off the marketing? And as marketers, we know we don't want to keep marketing to somebody who doesn't want the product that we're selling, so let's give them a way to do that. I think we're going to get there. How many B2B marketers are in the room? I'm just curious, B2B organizations? Okay, so I want to ask you another question, Heidi.
Yep.
And actually, I'd love it if you'd weigh in too, Ann. I'm very curious about the disintermediation of sales, right? You talked about that a little bit at the beginning, and the old school idea that agents and sales folks owned the customer, and so their version of creepy is totally acceptable because there's this personal relationship there, right? How do you break that? How have you gotten around some of those challenges?
I actually think it's about the trend in content marketing and being able to deliver the right content to customers and prospective customers in the buying cycle at the right time. We have that information today as marketers, and we can deliver the right content at the right time. So it's about paying attention to the buying cycle and the buying cues that your prospective customers are giving you. It's also about paying attention to those who influence your prospective customers. We have this immense amount of information about people's social networks, who influences them, who they follow, who they value, and being able to leverage those influencers is something that we can do as marketing folks, and a gift, essentially, that we can provide to our enterprise sales teams, for example. It's awesome to be able to provide to a senior level salesperson the picture of a prospective customer, not only what they've bought, what their current systems are, what they're exploring on our website, but almost more importantly, who they're following on Twitter, who influences them, so you can leverage that information in the relationship that the salesperson builds. And that is information and an ability that folks have, that we have from a marketing perspective today. And that to me is the power of data and the ability to have marketing have a much more impactful relationship with sales.
Okay, that makes sense. Ann, do you have a perspective there?
Yeah, I guess I would just say when I got to Adobe, I think the sales force thought we were totally useless. And we probably were pretty useless because we really didn't have any systems in place to be to understand what our customers were doing. And as Heidi said, I mean, the amount of knowledge that we are now able to collect about our customers that helps inform our salespeople, the funnel that we create for them. I mean, basically, you know, we supply them, and we have a goal each quarter of the, you know, kind of marketing sourced revenue is the way that we refer to it. And if we don't meet that goal, you know, we're responsible and we're accountable for that goal.
Okay.
So all of the inquiries that eventually get fed to the sales force, we're responsible for that. They have to be well informed. They have to be good. You can't just pass them over and hope that they're good. And sometimes we have issues with that handover, and so we continue to work on that. But the night and day how they perceive us. They really now consider us to be an important part of the eventual sale.
Great. John, I want to go back a step for a minute because you talked a bit about, you know, what you guys do, right? And it's fundamentally like people's most precious things, their memories, and that's what you deal in. How do you guys keep from being creepy? That's a very slippery slope, right?
We're pretty black and white about it. So for us, as I mentioned, you know, we have billions of photos and images that are people's memories that are tied to events. We have amazing data. We know birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, sweet 16s, everything that are major milestones in someone's life. So for us, we use data in a way that helps our customers. Where we help get in front of our customers. So for example, Treat is our one-to-one greeting card brand, and we take the data. People opt in to put in their friends' birthdays. People always forget to send birthday cards, you know, and you run into CVS at the last minute. So you opt in to take your friends, upload them manually, or take them from Facebook, and we send you reminders. Hey, it's Bill's birthday in 2 weeks. You want to send him a card? By the way, we've created one for you. If you go and upload 100 photos, we look at the geo information on that photo. We look at the geotag. We look at the time, date, stamp, and say these are all from clearly a trip to a tropical location. Then we overlay our algorithms to say these are the most important people in your photos because they appear the most times, and then these are the best photos, and by the way, Bob, we've created a photo book for you. So that's helping people along the process. What we never do is we never actually look at your individual photos. We look at them in aggregate. We don't look at them and say, oh, clearly this was your anniversary because you sent an anniversary card and you went to Paris. We're going to send you a note that says, hey, Bob, last year you surprised your wife by taking her to Paris. What are you going to do this year? That's creepy.
I wish you would send that, actually.
If you could read that would be good.
I'll see what I can do on a one-to-one basis.
I would like that.
But the whole...
Can I opt into that?
Yeah, exactly.
The whole cool to creepy continuum, I don't think there's a set definition. It's kind of, was it Chief Justice in the 60s, Chief Stewart, who kind of was talking about obscenity and pornography. Like, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
That's right.
It's a little bit like the creepy. I can't define it, but you know it when you see it and when you do it. And as a consumer, you know it when it feels a little creepy. Like you're internet stalking me.
Like, how did they know that I just looked at that face?
Exactly.
How do they know?
Yeah. It's kind of marketing as a blunt object. And I think, that's something that we're responsible for mitigating.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think you're dead on. The one thing all of you guys have sort of touched on in tangential ways, and I didn't warn you I was going to ask this, so sorry. I'm curious about the notion of using customer data and customer insights in product development. So each of you has touched on that a little bit. Can you kind of go through and talk a bit about how you do that? Anne, do you want to start?
Yeah, so we do it a lot. So we're in the software business, and software is something that can actually be helped by customer feedback. And so, maybe a good example, we have a product called Lightroom. I don't know if there are any photographers in the room, but this product was probably first developed 5 years ago, and we decided that we would post it as a beta up on our website and let people try it. And hundreds of thousands of people tried it, and they gave us a lot of feature feedback, and the top 5 features were ultimately integrated into the product. We do this now continually. Every time we post a beta, we collect information. A lot of times it actually appears in the product. One fun example is marketing helping here. We post sneaks of products that are coming. So for instance, if Photoshop has a new feature, we'll do a little video and sneak it on YouTube. And then we are able to assess what the top features that people actually like are based on how many hits one feature gets versus another. So we use that for marketing purposes. Not only are we actually using it for product development, but we're using it to inform how we spend our marketing dollars as well. This is incredibly valuable to the product people, also to us.
Great. Heidi, do you want to?
As a company, as having worked for companies that are pure play SaaS companies, the amount of data that we have about how our customers use our products is immense. And so that does inform product developments and helps us to define what products are needed, where are customers stumbling, where are customers leveraging our products to the highest degree, and where do we need to focus our development efforts. Great example is actually an Eloqua example where internally, and it's funny you talked about your OneView team.
Single source.
So we internally developed a one view of the truth report, same concept, and we knew that our customers were struggling with providing a single view of their data from their CRM system, whether it be Salesforce or another CRM system, and their marketing automation solution, in this case Eloqua. And so we leveraged a report that we developed internally and built it into the products and are releasing it. Oracle's releasing it, right, Dave? Yeah. Okay, so, and that's a great example of customer insight helping to drive product development. And it's a huge opportunity for companies that are based, that are cloud-based solutions. Because you can actually see what customers are using, what they're not using,
right.
Where are the features that are being leveraged the most and those that are being leveraged the least.
That's right, that's right. John, how about you guys?
We take a lot of data into our product development paths. We take a lot of customer insights, whether it be through qualitative research. Probably, the two most notable examples are Photo books. Creating a photo book is a bit of a labor of love. People wind up spending 10, 12 hours into it, and what we discovered was that we had a lot of people who dropped off during that process. They got intimidated. So we analyzed the data, we talked to our customers, because again, it's the combination of the quantitative and the qualitative for product development, and we created something called Simple Path. You can upload your photos, and boom, we create a photo book for you. So what took 10 or 12 hours can now take 10 or 12 minutes or an hour. And that product was really born from looking at the data and seeing where customers were having stumbling blocks and falling down. Mobile's another great example. Obviously, consumers are using their mobile phones to not only capture images, but to upload and share images. And we've used those data points as ways to, help us create the products that met their needs, whether, it's iOS or Android or whatnot.
Yeah, that's really cool. I need to get back to Shutterfly.
I know a guy knows a guy. We can make that happen.
I still have lots of albums out there.
And we're not remarketing you, telling you to finish them? We should be.
I'm not on Facebook.
Okay.
So I think we're going to turn it over to Q&A in just a minute here, but I want to kind of sum up the three things that I heard most clearly from the three of you. First of all, customer insights. Wow, lots of changes, and don't look for them to slow down anytime soon. I think we all experience it in our own businesses, so I think it's really redeeming to hear it from the three of you in three very different businesses. And the one thing that I would say about that I feel like resonates with the folks that I talk to on a regular basis is stop thinking about customer insights as a cost center and start thinking about it as an opportunity center, right? I think there's something really important there. Privacy issues, really interesting, and I think the idea that we kind of have to understand what it means in the context of each of our individual businesses is really important, and understanding what it means to your own customers and your own business, I think pretty crucial. And then the last thing I heard, which I really love, is the idea that you can't do this without collaboration. You've got to have teams internally that are speaking, and whether that's technology or qual and quant or whatever that is, I think we can't get away with customer insights as the status quo, and you sort of have to think about collaboration in a very different way. That was really great. Any questions from the audience? I would love to open things up and let you guys ask a few. There's a microphone on both sides of the room.
Hi, my name's Gary. I'm with Wells Fargo. Question for Anne. Actually, 2 points. One is I'm a huge Lightroom fan and user, and thank you for the most recent beta. It's very good. But I wish you guys would talk some more, because some better integration with Shutterfly would be appreciated. There's some user feedback for you.
Appreciate it.
Anne, I have a question. So you talked about the single source of truth. So, Wells Fargo, we're a very, very big company. And you talked about, how you're sort of enabling pulling that information together. And I just was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, is that organizationally, putting the people together? Is it about the technology and system? How is that sort of coming to life?
Yes, it's all of those. We did put together an organization that is responsible for all marketing data, insights, operations, technology automation, and then the overall reporting. But this is a cross-functional team, the single source of truth team, and it has people from the product area, product marketing, from sales, from customer support. So kind of all of the key touch points to the customer are included there, and in some cases people were collecting their own data. In the e-commerce sense, for instance, and we work really closely with e-commerce, they're kind of responsible for the overall number, the amount that we actually sell on the website. They were doing their own analytics. Where were people dropping off in the kind of conversion when they were purchasing? And we said, well, why are you guys doing your own analytics? We're doing our analytics. Let's at least look at across those two different pipes what's happening. But it is an organization that came together cross-functionally, and everyone on this team is so happy now. Happy.
Next question.
You spoke about sort of things like Heidi looks at a vase and then it shows up on Facebook. I'm actually interested if you would comment on the, not the direct things like that, but the correlations. And I'm thinking, of course, of the target recognizing when women are pregnant by correlations with things that are not directly, it's not directly that product, but recognizing in consumers where they are and what they might be interested in that's not directly the product that they're looking at. So the next level down, if you will, in analytics or big data or control software, whatever.
Was that question for anyone specific or anyone on the panel?
Well, we have the luxury. We typically know when our customers are pregnant because they're getting birth announcements cards, and then of course we know when the baby's born because that's inherent in the actual announcement. But to answer your question from a Shutterfly point of view, specifically regarding that example, we then figure out the right cadence of messages and products to offer that person. We know that people really want, after having a baby, you really want to capture those first 6-month moments, and so the photo book or photo gift is a great product to serve to you. And also, if it's your first baby, you're just going 24 hours a day, and so if we can help you, and you're also pretty tired when you have your first child, so if we can help you in that regard by creating products and servicing them for you, that's what we do. But we don't push it too far, and we don't do third-party partnerships where we share our data, and all of a sudden you're getting emails from, I don't know, Jackie and Jane or Bye Bye Baby going towards you, selling you diapers. That in our mind is a breach of our contract with our customer.
I would say it's about increasing the amount of predictive analytics that we use in B2B, and today, I think predictive analytics for marketing specifically in B2B is more early days because we're not leveraging as much of the predictive analytics as I think we could. I think that we have a tremendous opportunity today to leverage the data that we have and then to put on a layer of predictive analytics going forward. So if this customer buys this product and clicks on this on the website, the propensity for them to buy X product. But I do believe that that not many companies are doing that successfully today.
And can I just want to add one thing? Going back to your example, there's also the layer of common sense that needs to be added. So we know statistically that when someone gets married within, I think it's like 16 months later, they typically have their first child. We would never send anyone an email who got married 16 months ago saying, so, due date's coming up, what's going on?
Predictive analytics gone bad, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Great
data
example.
is just not absolute in, it's just, you have to read, it's not just reading the tea leaves, it's looking at the data and then saying, does this actually make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's where people fall down. It's insulting,
So, I'm a middle-aged woman, and on Facebook, and I'll just divulge it all. I obviously, they must have figured out how old I am, and so I was repeatedly getting ads for Botox and colon cleansing. And
I get those too.
And after a while, I said, I think I'm going to stop using Facebook. I was like, dislike, 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 but they kept popping up. So anyway, I think this, marketing as a blunt object concept, there has to be judgment applied, and there can be rules-based marketing that I think we all need to really apply.
Yeah. Great point.
I didn't do either one.
Yeah,
You're looking at me funny now.
I'm actually, what's interesting is I ditched Facebook about a year ago now, deactivated the whole thing. And it's interesting to hear people talking about how much smarter Facebook seems to have gotten. It doesn't seem to have gotten that much smarter yet. We have a question over there.
Yes, good morning. Great comments so far. Thank you for the panel. My name is Rick Witham with Nokia, and obviously mobile is near and dear to our hearts. I'm curious what your perspectives are, because we talked about it a little bit. How do you see that line between creepy and credible changing as you leverage more and more of the mobile data?
Great question.
I think mobile is such a huge opportunity. I have a great example from Taleo leveraging location data for recruiting purposes. How cool would it be if you were in a Starbucks and you knew that your top recruit, your top candidate for the most important job at your company is down the street, right at that moment? I mean, that's the opportunity to use location data from a mobile device in a way that helps, and I don't think it's creepy. Do you guys think it's creepy? Yeah, okay. Okay, so maybe I'm a little bit ahead of my time.
Remember when I said there's that line? I think you just found it.
But you know what? How hard is it to recruit and to find people? And if you know where they are, you would think it would be easier. So how many of you enable location? And why do you enable location? I mean, that's location. Yeah. So that is really valuable data from a targeting perspective. Recruiting is just one example. And okay, I got it, it's creepy. But location data from mobile devices is so powerful. And I think that we haven't yet explored all the avenues that mobile can offer marketers. And we also don't know where that creepy level is.
Yeah. John?
For our big conundrum with mobile is we know people capture and share from mobile from a photo standpoint. The create part is challenging because we're not Amazon, we're not eBay where you're just looking at a product you're buying and it's almost device agnostic, and there's a creation path. So you're pulling your photos from the cloud and you're creating, and no one is really going to spend 10 hours creating a photo book on a 3.5-inch screen. You'd lose your mind. So for us, the big question, this does circle back to big data, I'll get there, is what is the jump from discovery and interaction from mobile to desktop? So how do we overlay a universal ID so we can track who's looking, viewing, playing with their images through our apps or through our M-dots or T-dot sites, and then completing the transaction on a desktop or laptop? That's the pertinent question for us, and data is what's going to help us solve that problem, and that's a really big one for us.
Yeah, maybe I would just add one thing. I think of tablets as mobile devices as well, and we've gone a lot further, I would say, in our particular business with tablets. Tablets are, a big source now of inspiration for people who are either drawing or designing things, and they want to be able to connect what they're doing on their tablet with their desktop computer, where they often, in at least the creative space, they're doing a lot more work on the desktop because it's more capable. But we've seen a huge trend in people actually ideating on their tablets, that's led us to actually some product development ideas. The other thing we've done through some of our data mining, anonymous data mining capability, is we've learned a lot about habits on tablets. People are buying more per purchase on a tablet than they are now via a PC, and certainly via a phone. So that's informing a lot about how our sales process, our online sales process, looks like on a tablet. We want to make it really simple. It's got to be touch-based. So again, I think, and for all of you, I'm sure your businesses are doing more and more of your sales online. I think we did a major survey around Black Friday, and I think it was 25% of the purchases were done on tablets. Huge number of purchases. So that kind of information is really valuable, both in product development and how we sell the product.
Great. I think we have time for one more question.
What about data protection? It's not just the federal government that can ask you for all your records, but I think police operations can too, and so can malicious actors get into the data. How well protected is your one source?
Good question.
Nobody wants to answer.
Yeah, that's
I'll say a few words. So data security is a huge issue, and we're a software company, and we're one of the most pirated and heavily sought after in terms of data, and it's become a huge corporate priority for us. In fact, it used to be kind of the domain of the IT and security group, and now it has become, the domain of everyone. And we have, very strict kind of mandates now being imposed upon employees. One of the biggest areas for potential breaches is people just casually leaving their PC somewhere and then going to the bathroom. And people are, they'll know, especially if you're at a company that is interesting to the potential breacher, they'll be able to, quickly access your computer. So those kinds of things have become important, and at Adobe, everybody is now responsible. We've put a lot of, I would say, restrictions in terms of software development too, because, people around the world are developing software, so everyone's potentially vulnerable. It's a huge, huge priority.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think for much of what we see, there's quite a bit of what we call data stewardship, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's not an IT or security and risk or compliance problem anymore. It's a business process problem. It's a governance problem. So I think that's absolutely right. Well, I want to thank the panel, and I want to thank Churchill Club for having us. I think Karen's going to come up and say a few words, so please keep your seats. Thanks.
Thank you all again so much for coming out this morning and for sharing your perspectives so candidly with us. We appreciate it very much. As a very small token of our appreciation, we have for you the much coveted Churchill Club speaker t-shirt. Please wear that in very good health. Thanks again to Shutterfly for your support and Edelman for your partnership. A recording of this program will be available soon on the Churchill Club YouTube channel within a couple of days, and you have been an amazing audience. Thank you so much, and have a great day. See you next time.